Hi everyone, it's me again, Kirsty, and in this video I will be setting up my bullet journal for February. Now, February is a month that tends to be one of those months where I never know what kind of theme I should be choosing just because I don't know why. That's just the way it is. For some reason, I tend to gravitate towards Valentine's Day themed setups, and this year was no different. I don't know what it is. It's just, it's not quite winter anymore and it's not spring just yet. So something nature themed is always a little hard to come by, to me at least. So I went back to doing something Valentine's Day themed, and I was inspired by a setup by Piper's Art on YouTube and another aspect from a setup by Sakura on YouTube. And I really felt like drawing ribbons, and I didn't quite know how to tie this in, haha, pun intended, to Valentine's Day and to February. But then I had this idea and had to think of a film that I saw a few years back, and you might be familiar with the anime Your Name, which has a connection to the Eastern Asian legend of the red string or red thread of fate, which is essentially the equivalent of what we in the Western world understand as the idea of a soulmate. So the idea behind that legend, or if it even is a legend, I don't know, but the concept says that there's someone out there whom you are connected to by a red thread, and that person is your soulmate. So the ultimate goal of your life is to find that person, of course. And so the idea I had for this setup was to have one red thread on all of those pages, and then all the other ones in the back will be black. So that was the main idea, especially for my cover page. And there's, yeah, it was the perfect excuse to draw ribbons because I was inspired by different videos, as I said. And now I had the perfect idea for the background that made everything very romantic and Valentine's Day themed, so that fits February nicely. So for my cover page, I decided to draw those two hands that are connected by a red thread on their pinky fingers. So those two hands belong to two soulmates. And yeah, all the rest of those threads or ribbons in the back stay black, and they end somewhere, so they don't, you know, the one in the middle, the red one, is connecting the two hands and doesn't have an end, whereas all the others are cut off at some point and they are black. So they make a very nice background and make the red ribbon pop out even better. I will try and give you a bit of a tutorial on how to draw these ribbons in a bit, but I can also really recommend the two videos that I'm going to link down below from Sakura and from Piper's Art. Now that's all for my cover page with those two hands, and I think it turned out really nice. And the font that I used, which I might want to mention, is just a very basic cursive font, but it's also faux calligraphy, so I didn't use a brush pen to give it that effect of being written with a brush pen, but I used a Fineliner and just went over every downstroke from the lettering again so that it looked thicker. My calendar spread is the next spread that I'm setting up, as you can already see. As always, it consists of a very big calendar, and I did tweak a few things this time. So instead of having a complete empty box for each day, I have another additional line at the top where I can add the number of the day of the month. And I haven't done that in a while, so I felt like, you know, there's always teeny tiny things that I do change, even though overall the setups that I do tend to be exactly the same each month. But there are a few things that I like to tweak. And one of those things is like adding a line to each box of a calendar, for example. Now I used the right side of the right page to draw another bunch of ribbons, and as you can see here, to draw a ribbon, what you want to do is actually start with a very simple wavy line and then add another line that is most of the time parallel to the one that you've already drawn, but it's going to intersect the first line in certain places. And that makes for the effect that it actually bends in certain places. And the trick that makes it look 3D in the end is to go back to those places where you've added those intersecting sections and just add a bunch of shadow. That might be with a Fineliner, as I did for the black lines, where you just add a bunch of little black lines that go out from that little intersection. Or as I did with my colored pencil, I just went over that space a little more often so that it looks darker. And that, I think, really makes up for this 3D effect in the end. If I didn't have the problem of having very thin paper in this notebook, I would have gone ahead and made this spread a little more black and white. So all of the lines on the top for the days of the week and the lines for the days of the month, I would have colored in black and then added the numbers or the days of the week in white. But because I have a problem of having too thin paper that just would bleed through to the other side, I decided to use my grey Tombow and my red colored pencil. I'm not quite happy with how this looks because I actually want the focus to be on the red ribbon on the right side instead of that line for the days of the week. But, you know, I might go back and change that. For now, I just left it as is. Next, I'm setting up my tracker spread for my habits, my sleep and my mood tracker. And you already saw me draw out my mini calendars for each of the habits that I want to track this month. And maybe you might have seen that for each of those mini calendars, I added the dot grid by hand because I don't have a dot grid in this journal and it's blank. And I don't want to keep putting this sheet of paper that is ruled into the background all the time during the month. And so it's just much easier to see where I want to add my little bubble that signifies that I've actually done a certain habit on a specific day. And it's much easier to have those few little dots and add them by hand. And then in the end, I know exactly where I have to put that little dot. For the right side, it's a little easier to go back and just add my little paper in the back because it's on the right side and it doesn't bend that stupidly as it currently does because it doesn't lay flat. But, you know, I don't really care. It's just, I guess it's some tips that I can give you if you have similar problems with your journal and if you don't have a very expensive journal on hand with very expensive paper and very high quality stuff, but it's just a beautiful journal from the outside. If you have a cheaper journal, as I do at the moment, and I love it because it's from my mum and it has this beautiful wooden cover, it's just something that I have to make do with, and it's not a problem, it's just something you have to work out. And I really enjoy having the challenge, to be quite honest, and it's maybe those little tips will help someone out. Speaking of tips and tricks, thanks so much for your comments in my last two videos where I complained about the ghosting issue I'm having with this journal. You've all been so kind and sweet, and I even went to have a look at Bible markers that I've been recommended by one of you. I decided not to buy those because I might have a problem with buying too many stationery items all the time, and I just thought it would be cool to use more of my colored pencils and to go back and just use the very light Tombow dual brush pens that I have because they don't tend to ghost through as much. But in any case, thank you so much for being so understanding and so nice in the comments all the time. Now, my next setup is my notes spread. By the way, what I didn't explain on the page beforehand was that I also added another ribbon, a red one, to the top of my trackers page. And for my notes page, I just added this red border for a change and only added 2 Fineliner ribbons on the right side, so 2 black ribbons. And those are the ones that I copied from Jashi Corinne on YouTube. She did that for another setup. And I think it's really easily done and so quick, and it just looks fantastic. It's really easy to do. You just have those 2 wobbly lines that intersect at certain places. You go over those intersecting spaces a few more times and then you have a 3D ribbon. It's just as easy as that, and I think it looks really, really cool. And it's also a really fast thing to doodle. If you don't know what to doodle or to draw, go ahead and draw some ribbons. It's really, really therapeutic. And yeah, there's another close-up of me doing exactly that. Just having a good time drawing. Alright, the last spread that I'm going to be doing for this setup is my weekly spread, as always. I'm always debating whether or not I should put these into my monthly setup videos or not. They do belong to the month, I guess, and it does give you a bit of an overview into how I make my weeklies, but let me know in the comments if you do want to keep seeing those or not, because it's just one weekly of 4 each month. I might just not show you how I do them. I don't know. Whatever. Let me know. So for my weekly this month, I did pretty much the same layout that I tend to gravitate towards. There are certain things that I tweaked again. I didn't do a grid for all of the days of the week on the right side, but just added those little title boxes. And there's my mini calendar on the left-hand side to show me what week we are currently on in the month, and a section for things I need to do during the week and things I need to remember for the week after that. Then on the top there's the title of this week, which is the calendar week number 5 at the moment, and then I added another red ribbon to the top. Easy as that. And with that, I hope I didn't ramble on too much. I just hope you enjoyed whatever I was talking about, which was this setup mainly. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was of some sort of use to you, that it maybe inspired you for that you maybe had an idea of what you could do for your setup if you are bullet journaling as well, or if you needed some idea of drawing something because you want to draw something. Go at it. With that being said, if you did like this video, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you wish to see more videos from me in the future. See you, bye bye.